The rain hammered against the windshield as Marcus Chen gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white with tension. In the passenger seat sat his daughter's chemistry textbook, sticky notes marking every chapter he'd studied for 3 months straight. Today was the day, the civil engineering licensing exam that could change everything. One test stood between him and a $30,000 salary increase, between struggling to make rent and finally breathing easy as a single dad raising 8-year-old Emma. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Marcus had woken at 4:30 a.m., his stomach churning with nervous energy. Emma had made him a good luck card the night before, her crooked letters spelling out, "You got this, Daddy." He'd tucked it into his jacket pocket like a talisman. The exam center was 45 minutes away, and he'd given himself 2 hours, plenty of time for traffic, coffee, and a final review in the parking lot. He was making good time on the highway when he saw her, a woman in a cream-colored coat, waving frantically on the shoulder of the road beside a Mercedes with its hood smoking. Marcus's first instinct was to keep driving. He glanced at the clock, 6:47 a.m. He had time, but not much. The exam started at 8 o'clock sharp, and they didn't let anyone in after 7:45. But as he passed, he caught a glimpse of her face in his rearview mirror, panic mixed with desperation. His mother's voice echoed in his head, the lesson she'd drilled into him since childhood: "We help people, Marcus. Always. That's what makes us human." With a groan that came from somewhere deep in his chest, Marcus pulled over. The woman was older than he'd thought, maybe in her 60s, with perfectly styled silver hair now dampened by rain. "Oh, thank God," she gasped as he approached. "My phone is dead, and I've been out here for 20 minutes. No one will stop." Marcus popped her hood and immediately saw the problem: a burst radiator hose, coolant pooling on the asphalt. "This isn't a quick fix," he said, his heart sinking. "Where are you headed?" "Mercy General Hospital. My husband," her voice cracked. "He's having emergency surgery. I was supposed to be there an hour ago. He thinks I abandoned him." Marcus looked at his watch, 6:53 a.m. The hospital was 30 minutes in the opposite direction from his exam. If he drove her there and turned around immediately, he'd never make it. 3 months of studying, $300 in exam fees, non-refundable. The chance to give Emma the life she deserved. The woman saw him calculating, saw the conflict playing across his face. "You have somewhere important to be," she said quietly. "Yeah," Marcus admitted. "But this is more important." The drive to Mercy General was mostly silent except for the woman's directions and the relentless drumming of rain. She introduced herself as Catherine Reynolds, and Marcus noticed her hands never stopped trembling. "I met my husband when I was 19, she said suddenly. 51 years ago. He was a mechanic, and I brought in my father's old Ford. He got grease on my white gloves while showing me the engine trouble." She smiled at the memory. "I pretended to be furious. We were married 6 months later." Marcus felt his throat tighten. He'd had only 7 years with Emma's mother before cancer took her. 7 years that now felt like both forever and the blink of an eye. They pulled up to the hospital at 7:34 a.m. Catherine turned to him, tears streaming down her face. "I don't even know your name." "Marcus Chen. I hope your husband's okay, Mrs. Reynolds." She grabbed his hand with surprising strength. "What were you supposed to be doing today, Marcus Chen?" "Taking an exam. For my engineering license." He tried to smile. "There's always next year." "Next year," she repeated, as if testing the weight of those words. Then she was gone, rushing through the hospital doors. Marcus sat in his truck for a long moment, watching the clock tick past 7:45. The point of no return. He'd made his choice, but that didn't stop the wave of disappointment from crashing over him. He thought of Emma, of the tiny apartment with the leaky ceiling, of the overtime hours he'd have to keep working. He thought of explaining to his 8-year-old daughter why her father had given up on his dreams. Then he thought of Catherine Reynolds sitting alone in a hospital waiting room, and he knew he'd made the only choice he could live with. The next week blurred together. Marcus requested another exam date, 8 months away, the next available slot. He picked up extra shifts at the construction firm. He helped Emma with her homework and pretended everything was fine, but she knew. Kids always know. On Saturday morning, exactly 1 week after the missed exam, Emma was eating cereal and watching cartoons when she suddenly screamed. Not a scared scream, an amazed one. Marcus ran into the living room and followed her pointing finger to the window. A helicopter was descending into their small backyard, the downdraft flattening the overgrown grass they couldn't afford to maintain. "Dad, are we in trouble?" Emma whispered. They stepped outside, shielding their eyes from the swirling debris. The helicopter door opened, and out stepped Catherine Reynolds, wearing a navy suit and looking nothing like the panicked woman on the highway. Behind her came a tall man with a silver beard, moving slowly but steadily with a cane. "Marcus Chen," Catherine called over the dying whine of the helicopter blades. "This is my husband, Robert." Robert Reynolds extended his hand. "My wife tells me you saved her life." "I just gave her a ride," Marcus stammered, acutely aware of his worn jeans and the duct-taped railing on his porch. "You gave up something important," Robert said. "Catherine told me about your exam." Marcus shrugged, uncomfortable. "Anyone would have done the same." "But they didn't," Catherine interjected. 23 cars passed me, Marcus. I counted. You were the only one who stopped." Robert pulled an envelope from his jacket. "I made some calls. The State Engineering Board is holding a special makeup exam for you next Saturday. All fees waived, of course." Marcus's hands shook as he took the envelope. "I don't understand. How did you?" "My husband has some influence," Catherine said with a smile that suggested some influence was a massive understatement. "He built Reynolds Construction. Perhaps you've heard of it." Marcus's jaw dropped. Reynolds Construction was only the largest infrastructure development company in the country. Robert Reynolds wasn't just wealthy, he was a billionaire whose project shaped skylines. "There's more," Robert continued. "We're opening a new division focused on sustainable urban development. We need engineers with integrity, people who do the right thing even when it costs them. When you pass that exam, and I have no doubt you will, there's a senior engineer position waiting for you. Salary starts at $140,000. Emma, who had been hiding behind Marcus, let out a gasp. Marcus felt tears burning his eyes. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll keep being the kind of person who stops to help," Catherine said, pulling him into a hug. "The world needs more Marcus Chens." As the helicopter lifted off, Emma grabbed her father's hand. "Daddy, you always tell me that doing the right thing is its own reward." Marcus laughed, wiping his eyes. "I do say that, don't I? But sometimes," Emma grinned, "you get a helicopter too." That night, after Emma was asleep, Marcus sat on his porch with his mother on speakerphone, telling her the whole story. When he finished, there was a long pause. "You see," his mother finally said, her voice thick with emotion. "We help people, Marcus. Always. Because that's what makes us human." Marcus looked at the card Emma had made him, now taped to his refrigerator. "You got this, Daddy." She'd been right all along. He did have it, not just the knowledge for an exam, but something more valuable, the courage to be kind when kindness cost him everything. And in a world that often felt cold and disconnected, that single act of humanity had created ripples he could never have imagined. Sometimes the detours we take end up being the road we were meant to travel all along.